On today's episode of The Strange Show, I had the pleasure of interviewing Jared Brier at this year's Gadget Repair Expo in Miami. Jared Brier is the co-founder and co-CEO of AKKO, a San Francisco-based company offering modern device protection plans for repair shops and retailers. AKKO provides comprehensive coverage for smartphones and other electronics, aiming to simplify and enhance the customer experience in the device insurance industry. Jared and his co-founder Eric Schneider bootstrapped AKKO from an idea to one of the fastest growing device insurance programs in the US. AKKO has major global ambitions, and I have no doubt that they will continue to revolutionize the device insurance space. Today's sponsor is my company, XI Repair. If you need your device repaired or data recovered, check out xirepair.com. We're a WISE certified provider that can help you fix your cell phone, tablet, computer, laptop, and game console. We offer an industry-leading warranty and have successfully fixed over 40,000 devices since 2018. Now, on to my conversation with a great entrepreneur and a good friend, Jared Brier. So I'd love to just hear the AKKO story, like how you started AKKO, how you got into this industry.
Yeah.
Because I think it's pretty interesting. Like, you're really the only person doing... It's a niche, right? Like, I can't point to another. There's a whole bunch of vendors. There's a whole bunch of repair shops. There's a whole bunch of carriers. There's AKKO.
Right.
There's Assurion and Assurant, but not the same.
Right. No, I mean, honestly, how we got into it is a lot because of what you just said. There were not many people going into it. And so when I was first kind of coming across the idea of doing some type of innovation and new venture in this kind of warranty device insurance space, it was very much driven by the fact that you could really only see like these legacy incumbent players like Assurant, Square Trade, these guys that had been around for decades. And so when sort of thinking about what the customer experience looks like, because that's really what kind of drove everything early on, was me as a consumer and seeing the other folks that are in my age range, as consumers, where everything else was going fully digital, right? Apps for ordering your food, buying stuff online, like quick, seamless, easy, same day. You really didn't see that when things would break with your devices, right? And even if you did have insurance through the big guys, right, through your telco, or you bought it through a retail store, there's often like a pretty convoluted process for how you actually get your stuff fixed or repaired. And so I personally had a really shitty experience with a laptop warranty. I won't say who it was through, but it was kind of one of these third-party warranty companies, worked with a really big online retailer. And I found myself 2.5 years into this 3-year warranty I had on an HP laptop. And I found myself having to call an 800 number when I needed it repaired, faxing them, literally faxing. Like, it was 2017 and I was faxing like a diagnostic and receipt from a repair shop to get approved. And it ended up taking like 1 to 2 weeks to get resolved. And I was like, this seems crazy that like we're living in like the Uber and DoorDash and Amazon Prime era. And this is how I get my laptop
the thing
fixed.
You're using
to do all
of Uber is like the most antiquated and analog of all of the options, right?
Exactly. And so that's really what kicked things off. Like, there was really that element of like, how do we modernize and digitize this when everything else around us is moving that direction? How do we make the customer experience better? But then there was also this additional angle of really just like making how we protect our stuff simpler, more transparent, more valuable, less anti-consumer, if you will, because you go on Amazon even, or you go to like Best Buy, Target, Walmart, any of these places, and every single thing you buy, they say, oh, do you want to buy a protection plan on that? Do you want a protection plan on that? And that just seems like totally in the opposite direction of how a lot of other insurance works, where it's like you buy renter's insurance and it just covers all the shit in your home. And so our first plan was actually our bundled plan. So it was a $15 subscription that we kind of, coined the term the Spotify of device protection.
We sold a heck of those.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it caught on, right? The idea was like, let's make a 10x better offer, but at the same price as what other people are buying, right? And so it was $15 a month to protect your cell phone plus 25 other personal and home electronics under one plan. We cover new, used. You added it all to your account on our digital app or our web application, and then you could seamlessly file a claim, and you didn't have to worry about juggling all these warranties from different providers. And some are 2 years, some are 3 years, some, you've already run out of coverage, and I just bought this thing, and hey, like in this day and age, it happens to be used. Maybe I bought it off Swappa or Back Market or something like that. How do I insure it? And so we really initially were filling that gap, thinking about it from the customer lens and that viewpoint, being a consumer myself, as well as my co-founder who could relate to the problem. But it really kind of evolved over time. And we realized this huge gap in the market for folks like retail and repair shops, right, that are here at the show that go, hey, I'm seeing hundreds of customers a month come into my store, pay good money either for a refurbished device or to fix a device that's broken, that's now in great condition after my repair, and there's no way for them to insure that device. And so that's started kind of this snowball effect of us building out our technology platform to not just focus on the customer experience and the claims automation and fraud prevention and all these other things that have to happen behind the scenes to offer something kind of at these price points, a great value, great experience. But also we started tackling the problems from a technology kind of angle of how do we enable distribution across all these areas in the market and through all these different types of partners and potential resellers that just simply don't have access to be able to sell protection at all. And so, yeah, as you'll remember, I know your shop was among one of the first like 100 or so that we started working with years back. And it was through that partnership with early repair shops that we built out a portal they could use to sell protection plans right in their store. And then from there, things just really grew. We started building out our infrastructure further with, hosted online checkout pages for like affiliate partners or benefits brokers. We built out a really robust API first solution where with our open APIs, any type of distribution partner, Ecommerce, MVNO, insurance broker, OEM, any of these folks can just easily use our APIs. So you can almost think of it sort of like Stripe, but for warranties, right? We really took that kind of developer first approach and just making things highly configurable by design, which is what enables kind of this super scalable, customized ability for anyone to offer a protection program for devices.
I hope AKKO gets to have a Stripe exit.
Because
they're
I'm
doing
not
pretty.
sure.
I think they're doing pretty good now.
They're doing
right?
pretty good. Unfortunately, I think the warranty industry is significantly smaller than payments globally, just because everything involves payments. But knock on wood, I think if this is wood, that hopefully maybe one day we'll see something like that, or we'll keep riding this, for decades to come. People are constantly inventing cool, new, innovative personal and home electronics. Cool new AI-enabled devices we've seen coming out. Everyone is so technology dependent today too. And we've also really branched out to working not just in sort of the consumer profile, right? Folks coming to a repair shop, folks signing up for an MVNO, shopping online, but we're also working with group programs too. So we're actually doing insurance on fleets of devices for schools like K through 12. You think Chromebooks, iPads, MacBooks, but also businesses too. If you think about like fleets of iPads and cell phones that workers are using, whether they're delivery drivers or more kind of, white collar, salespeople or other folks within a corporate environment, even work from home, being able to help, hey, how do we cover and fix, our employees' laptops when we've got hundreds of employees working all across the world or all across the country. And so we're really enabling protection and this great experience around how people protect and get their devices repaired everywhere, basically, that people have devices today.
You might appreciate this story. I told it at a speech that I gave earlier today. I'm not sure if you're familiar with stablecoins and cryptocurrency. You're smiling. I've had a few guests that haven't, so
Okay.
I had to ask. So where I'm going with this is that you mentioned like how devices, there was a need for essentially them to be serviced because customers rely on them so much.
Right.
One of the interesting perspectives that I've gave in my speech was that with the Genius Act that's most likely going to pass the Senate, hopefully here soon, it's already passed the House, legalizes stable coins, which Stripe was in. That's where I'm getting this idea from.
Yeah.
Once that's enabled, Apple, Samsung, Android, all the OEMs are going to have native wallets, decentralized wallets, with a flip of a button in our hardware because we already have the encryption, right? Your phone is a ledger already. It just, you flick a button and now suddenly you can have USDC on your phone. Your phone is your wallet. And that's definitely the future in the developing world, and it probably will be the future here in the developed world, which means that AKKO and by extension phone services are even a bigger part of our life because when your phone cracks and that's your wallet, it already is with Apple Pay, but it's going to be even further so much more. You have to get it fixed. Like you need it now or you can't make a payment. You can't eat without your device. And so I thought it was just a cool story you might appreciate.
Absolutely.
That's definitely going to happen probably over the next 6 to 12 months.
Absolutely. And yeah, it's so funny actually. You bring up like developing economies too, and you're absolutely right. Like in the US, we kind of had the benefit of being part of kind of the internet 1.0 of kind of the 90s and into the early 2000s. And the developing world skipped right past all of that, right? Like we're still using kind of janky, big bank online websites, and they're all kind of starting to update their mobile apps, but we're still operating on those types of rails. Whereas to your point, like I did a business trip over to Kenya, actually in Africa, and like the norm is kind of these mobile money wallets that are
AKKO's going global? That's crazy, man.
So yeah, I was going to say, so it's actually kind of interesting. We are doing some device insurance programs via partners, and it's actually through a licensing model. So the technology and the platform we've built in the US is something that folks internationally did recognize. Oh, wow, like we don't have phone insurance in our country. And to your point, there's such a vital need because of how much more reliant people are on their cell phone for transactions, day-to-day work, school, getting around, everything, right? To your point, it is your wallet. And so we've actually licensed our platform through partnerships and have a pilot program in Kenya that's been running with one of the really large insurers in that country, as well as one of the telcos, to actually insure any device that's like financed or leased through some of the large providers there. And we're doing another one upcoming in Guatemala as well, with the largest bank in the country is actually interested in offering insurance for their customers that are using their kind of mobile banking, mobile money as well.
Call me, I'll pay my way. We'll go explore Guatemala.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that one should be rolling out later this year. Yeah, that's kind of how we've approached anything international at this point in time. We're still a relatively young company. We've only been around about 5 years. So anything outside the US and Canada is more through kind of that licensing platform and model where people are just utilizing the technology we've built. And then in the US and Canada, we operate more as kind of a true full stack insurer where we can cover everything from the risk, the administration, customer service, as well as, of course, providing the technology platform as well.
Did you raise venture capital or raise funds to start AKKO?
We have, yeah. So initially not to start it, actually. So funny enough,
you bootstrapped basically?
Initially, yeah. So I bootstrapped it kind
dude.
of up to our seed round and had put in some of my own money and time. So that was kind of maybe like the first year of our growth. And then after we had grown a decent amount throughout 2020, mainly just doing digital marketing and just kind of direct to consumer with some of those more novel consumer focused plans I mentioned.
Are you able to show are you able to share user growth?
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So at the time, I want to say we were probably around a couple thousand customers. So it might have been
2020.
In 2020, yeah. So in 2020, we really kind of first launched into the market direct to consumer in the spring of 2020. It was literally as the COVID shutdown
Best
had
time
just
to start
started.
a business.
Exactly. So it was almost a pivot. We were originally going to be marketing protection through a large university right here in Florida, actually, the University of Central Florida in Orlando. We had a partnership with them. We were about to have me and a couple of our early team members go out to their campus during spring orientation. And of course, March came around, everything went full shutdown. And I was like, gosh, like this was supposed to be our kind of like first big break after months of work. And so instead I turned to doing Google Ads and some SEO and, reaching out to publishers online. And that's how we started initially growing and getting customers. So once we were at about $200,000 in ARR kind of towards the fall is when we started going and fundraising, myself and my co-founder. And so we raised a few $1,000,000 in the spring of 2021 from a couple great venture capital firms, Pear VC as well as Fika VC as well. That are both based out in California, and then a slew of really great angels and other sort of advisors as well that put in various check sizes. And then we raised our Series A in 2022, actually, from a really prominent European-based insurtech investor fund called Mundi. So they actually have a GP who comes from the telco industry and they specialize in insurance. And so we were really excited to partner with them, kind of alluded to those global ambitions that we do have and sort of seeing how we can expand to other markets as well. And yeah, since then, it's been a great ride. We raised another few $1,000,000 last fall as well, just to help funnel into the growth that we've been seeing, hire more people, lean into the areas where we're seeing a lot of opportunity as well.
That's awesome. I think AKKO, a lot of the customers and maybe repair shops might not appreciate the way you guys have built the onboarding of a new client prevents fraud in such a way that if I had to guess, and probably you may not know, and I definitely don't know what Assurion and Assurance fraud rates are.
Right.
But I would place $1 million bet right now. Y'all's is way lower.
Yeah.
Because of the images of all sides of the devices, the descriptions, et cetera, that you guys collect.
Yeah.
That really allows you guys to cut fraud and by extension cut cost.
Yeah.
I thought that was a pretty big innovation. That was one of the reasons I was interested at first, because I could see the product was going to work. And it's really cool seeing the growth that you guys have had.
Yeah, absolutely. And that would have been a very well-placed $1 million bet too, because you're absolutely right. We're really kind of still one of the only ones that's taking more of that proactive approach to reducing fraud. And that's really most important when you are dealing with more like direct to consumer, BYOD customers for like an MVNO, BYOD, that's bring your own device. So used, refurbished, sales through retail and repair shops. Unfortunately, even on like the reseller kind of broker side, there can be bad actors, right?
Yeah,
Some
of
shops
course.
that have a customer come in with a broken phone and might say, oh, don't worry, I'll sign you up for insurance, and then come back in a week or two and, I'll be able to fix this for free, right? So to your point, the technology we focused on and that mobile app, the verification process we can put people through, we know puts us right in the bucket of the lowest fraud rates and best loss ratios in our industry because of that more proactive approach and leveraging technology to really combat fraud, to your point.
That's so cool. That's so awesome. So we have a e-commerce platform that we're working on to sell our repair services and products online. I'm curious, have you had any vendors use, obviously you have because you have an API product for it, but how are they integrating that API product into, say, a Shopify that sells an iPhone 12, right?
Yeah.
What's the workflow like that look like, and how does AKKO come in?
Yeah, great question. So Shopify, believe it or not, we actually have a native plugin for. So that one's like a very easy, like 1-day configuration, install our Shopify app, and then we go ahead and configure it on the back end of our client store. But even for folks that aren't on Shopify, for example, usually developers, just one single developer can get assigned to taking care of an AKKO integration in their platform. And it takes under a few days to be fully set up. And so that ability to really be developer first and focused, again, I'll sort of call back to like strike for warranties, like us enabling folks to allocate such little development resource time to be able to offer something and integrate something that has such tremendous value, like offering protection plans and being able to attach that to the transactions and to the purchases that their clients and customers are already making on their site or properties, is immense, right? And being able to do that is something that also really sets us apart from some of those incumbent players that have built legacy, infrastructure that goes back decades, right? So a lot of the times it's like, you might say, oh, is there an API for that? And you're being met
They're
with,
like, what's an API?
I'll give them more credit than that. But yeah, we've heard like some horror stories of like, oh, they want to use like a SFTP, like file transfer kind of protocol, like enrollment file style approach that's like done in a batch job where you can literally like lose enrollee data and like have to like manually reconcile it. And that's like from multi-billion-dollar companies in our space where we hear that that's what the integration journey looks like. So you can imagine how much faster we've been moving than them to be able to launch into these new categories with new types of resellers. And when you're working with other tech-forward companies that are startups or they're more tech-forward, kind of dominating whatever their new space is, they expect to be able to work with a similar tech-forward partner as well. So that's really what's enabled us to like grow fast and find a lot of traction in some of those verticals.
Our interactions with AKKO so far have been through kind of the native web app, not through any of the other incredible tech you guys are working on. So I was unaware of like how advanced y'all's backends were and just the tech stack that you guys have built is. Are you the more technical co-founder, or would you say that's your counterpart?
Good question. So I always describe myself as semi-technical. So I do have a background in doing web design, development, but mainly kind of on the marketing, branding, digital marketing side of things. I know enough to be dangerous, as they would say, but I'm not the person touching any of the code or back end. My co-founder actually has more of sort of a finance and business background, working in strategy, innovation, and within the startup realm. So technically, neither of us are technical founders, but we were fortunate to bring on really great senior technical talent early on when we were forming the company. And we actually have a surprise announcement that'll be coming up in the next month. We've hired our first CTO as well. So, now several years in, we've really reached that phase to go to the next level and are bringing in a really senior, chief technical officer who comes from the insurtech space, who's going to be joining our team and taking us to the next level.
That's super fascinating. We have like similar stories there because I've become a lot more technical over the years of like when you work on one product for so long, you kind of have to become technical at it. But obviously we didn't have capital. We never raised capital. I'm a full only owner, et cetera. And because of that, I've had to be. But most people go hire out developers overseas or have like a contracted development team. Was that the approach you guys took early on in AKKO? And maybe talk about some of the struggles, because I know that's not an
Yeah.
easy, you know, trying to ship a minimally viable product when you're not the technical founder is not an easy task.
That's totally true. Yeah, technically our MVP was really actually me and one of my close college buddies that went ahead and built the initial version. So I was kind of acting as designer PM, and he was the one doing all the
So
coding
you are
work.
technical. You were just being humble. That's what this
A little
is.
bit. Like I said, semi-technical.
And this is pre-ChatGPT era, so it's actually technical.
It was pre-ChatGPT. So I would, learn enough to kind of open VS Code and make little changes myself to push them. But by and large, I was paying my buddy by the hour to kind of build out our very first version of the web application over the summer before his job was starting, actually, after we had graduated college. And I would insist on like getting on Zoom calls or like going over to his place to actually see what he was doing. Because to your point, it's like you want to understand what's going on. You want to learn as you go so that you're familiar with it all. So I am very happy and fortunate I did that. And shout out to Josh Navi, my fraternity brother from UC San Diego, who helped on that project and build our initial MVP. But yeah, after that point in time, we kind of took a bit of a hybrid approach. There were some contractors we hired because, again, this was during COVID, right?
Yeah,
so it's like, especially trying to hire people when you haven't ever hired people, like I hadn't. I was more used to working with contractors or people I knew and had met in person or that were in my network. So there were some people early on we hired that were overseas developers or like nearshore developers in like Latin America, South America, that did awesome work for us early on in building some of our early features. And over time, especially once we had raised money, we had a better sort of network to be able to go ahead and hire senior technical talent here in the US.
And a bigger piggy bank too. That helps.
That definitely helps also, especially if you recall during COVID and lockdown. We were talking peak of the market when it came to salaries, especially in the tech world. So it took a long time to hire some folks, and sometimes that meant we had to hire more folks that were outside of the US. But today we've got a really healthy balance of folks that are in the US, outside the US. We're still a fully remote first company as well. So it actually works great. You don't really feel that there's any kind of boundaries or borders between anybody. We're all working together on our Slackverse and, joining Zooms and all that sort of stuff.
Oh, Slack. I don't like Slack, man.
Oh, really? Are you a Discord guy?
No. Discord's pretty good.
Okay.
We use, most of our interactions are we ClickUp, Gmail, Google Messaging.
Yep.
But keep in mind, we're a little more labor intensive, so it's a lot more, it's not as technical, right? So it's, hey, is this fixed? Ticket number, there's a little bit more direct conversation.
Makes sense.
But yeah, never been a Slack guy. The constant messages drive me crazy. My ADHD brain, I have to turn it
That's
off.
good for you, honestly, because like me and my co-founder can sometimes fall into a trap of like feeling like we have to get to everything, and it can wear you down on your focus sometimes during the day when you've got like a team of 50 people like we do today, and there's things happening all the time. So
that's very true.
Definitely good to have like real time, constant communication and connection though, for sure, to work together in a fully remote environment. So definitely, blessings and curse.
Absolutely true. Absolutely true. I think we had talked maybe like a few years ago about kind of like standardization, how there was an issue, on the insurance side in particular of like valuing a repair because, there's those shops that are like, quite frankly, just used to ripping people off and they're like, oh, it's $500. And there's no logic or system to why they quoted that. I'm curious if AKKO's made any progress in maybe creating internal systems and what those might be like for value, whether a repair is viable or not. And then two, just what your opinion on the best system for our industry going forward might be, because I definitely think we need one. We have our internal, but it's almost like we need an association as a service industry that just says, like the auto care industry did, auto care association did for the auto repair industry. This repair takes 1 hour of tech labor on average. You put your hourly labor rate to it, add your 10% margin to parts, and there's your price. And that allowed insurance to kind of have reliable pricing, which is important for you guys to do claims adjustments and make decisions on pricing.
Totally.
Thoughts on that?
Absolutely, yeah. And it's interesting that you would call that out as a repair shop kind of owner and provider yourself, obviously, right? Because not everybody, I would say, necessarily recognizes that, hey, just kind of like letting this be the Wild West, can actually end up working against us, right?
Oh, 1000%.
Yeah. And so today for us, like we do have certain parameters in place on our platform to kind of notice when certain repairs go outside of a threshold, usually only to the high side. I don't think we've ever been shocked by a really low price, but when anything goes above a certain threshold based on, the certain loss or damage type and, the specific make and model, those are things that get tripped in our system to get sort of like a manual review. By and large, the program that we run with all of our repair shop partners, when they are also selling our plans, it's kind of baked in a little bit that we're a little generous on how much we pay them for repairs when they're receiving their own customer back to their store from an insurance claim, right? And so we try to let them basically charge what their normal retail rate is. And sometimes we will go ahead and audit that, right? To make sure, to your point, that they're not putting down $500 for like an iPhone 14 screen repair. And then, just trying to slide that by. So sometimes, we'll do like a little mystery shopping with folks on our claims team, call the store, ask how much a price is to vet out the invoice that we got. But by and large, that's why we really only work with repair shops that have gone through a proper vetting procedure and gone through our authorization process as well. That's really key to keeping things, not just cost controls, but also just the overall quality of the customer experience and the repair work being done, right? Because there's, kind of a high correlation, I would say, between the type of shop that is trying to gouge people on price and the type of, interactions they're having with a customer. And the repair shops we work with are valued partners. They're an extension of our brand. They're an extension of the AKKO claims experience. And so we really care about vetting them out and sort of approving that. In regards to doing something like a rate sheet or a more standardized form, there are other insurance companies in the space that adopt that. We have actually also started to adopt that as well and roll that out. And so especially when we're sending repair work to shops that are from outside of protection plans they have sold themselves to their customers, we do have a rate sheet that is starting to get implemented with those stores. So as the volume of repairs that we're getting from all these other sorts of different channels, right, K through 12, businesses, the end customers through folks like the MVNOs we work with, where they're selling phone insurance backed by us, all those claims when they get routed to a shop are falling into like a rate sheet manual where we're looking at more of kind of a parts plus labor model to keep things a lot more standardized, right? Because that is something, as you pointed out, we have to build that into our actuarial models and our pricing. You can't scale to millions of customers and have, repair costs all over the place. But also it's just a way to implement better fairness with the shops too, so that they can actually share in the revenue that we're able to provide to them when they service the claims from all the different customer programs we have.
One of the things that's always stood out to me about AKKO is that you guys essentially allow the customer to choose their service provider, which is, I think that's, as a repair shop owner, I have AKKO insurance and I've used it, great product. But furthermore, customers will ask my opinion, like, you're a repair shop owner, what would you use? And, I say AKKO, and the price is a little bit less than maybe an insurance plan, but the biggest seller, and what I always tell customers is like, listen, if you're in Panama City Beach, we're in Alabama, it's not far from us, and you're having a good time and you drop your phone, if you have Assurant and you're on vacation, you don't know, they don't even think they have a CPR store there, right? Like, you're not going to be able to get it repaired. If you have AKKO and you need to get that fixed ASAP, you're going to submit a claim. They're probably going to respond ASAP that day or within 24 hours, and you're going to have a phone fixed while you're on vacation, or maybe you're traveling, to another state or something, right? Like, if you limit the service options, in some ways it might benefit the insurance company like Assurant because they just end up paying out of pocket and not even making a claim.
Right.
But in the long term, doing what AKKO's done, I think actually has a higher customer retention rate because who the heck's going to be mad? Like, I mean, like how many insurance plans do you have where you're just like easily make a claim, easily got fixed? No strings attached. You made your payment. Just send us a receipt. Like it works, And to me, that's the biggest selling point.
I love that. I don't hear as many shops that focus on that point, but I think you're absolutely right. We've seen so many claims and so many great 5-star reviews online. People talk about, oh, I was on vacation in Spain and I spilled coffee on my laptop, and AKKO was actually able to send me cash to go get it fixed locally, while I was in Barcelona, so that I could keep working, right? Or we've even seen people talk about, to your point, we have some 5-star reviews where people say, I wish all insurance worked this way, right? Because people aren't used to having this kind of frictionless experience when it comes to a claim process, that's for sure. But yeah, no, I really love that call out there. And absolutely, like for us, it's all about the focus on that experience. And we do optimize first and foremost around retention. At the end of the day, like you can pinch pennies on each individual claim or have these rigid rules about where servicing gets done. But the whole point of us building a modern platform for this space and in today's kind of technical era is to provide that configurability and that flexibility to our end users for a better experience, right? And ultimately, when they receive that, it becomes part of their life. They, don't take it for granted. They appreciate it. And that means we're going to keep them for the long term.
Something that I wanted to tell you, I had written like a email to you one time and I ended up never sending it. I saw in my drafts when I was getting ready to ask you to go to this podcast, I saw it and I was like, man, I need to, I'm just going to tell him in person because I never drafted this. But it was essentially a thank you email. And the reason being is I don't think you may realize how big of an impact AKKO is and is going to have on the actual success of our industry. And I'll explain why. We have zero reoccurring revenue as a service provider unless you have contracts with your local school or that sort of thing. But the average repair shop has zero reoccurring revenue, right? It's all incidental. It's all this many customers happen to break their device this particular month. And that would change if other major insurance companies like Asurion and Assurant, the big competitors, I think SquareTrade, I know SquareTrade kind of takes y'all's approach of letting the customer pick their service provider, but they're a much smaller market. The bigger two markets, the biggest two insurance providers have essentially a monopoly on the service providers. They cut us out, and it's not because we were not willing to compete. It's this, they want to keep it in-house for branding reasons, which I would argue is monopolistic and probably borderline not allowed in certain states that have anti-steering legislation where you can't be the insurance provider but also be the service provider doing the repair, because if you think about it, it's a conflict of interest.
Totally.
So my point is, like, thank you for being an example of what you can be in this industry, and as AKKO grows, so does our companies, because yes, we benefit from customers' damages, but it's more of a creating a healthy relationship that's an alternative to the current Asurion and Assurant model.
Totally.
And one day when you guys do replace them at Verizon and T-Mobile stores, every repair shop in the country is going to thank you, because a local independent service provider is going to benefit from AKKO insurance plans, letting the customer use them and not being forced to go back to the You Break I Fix or wherever they're contracts with. So
totally. No, absolutely. And yeah, I think that's always been like a core thing that I've really wanted to aim for since the beginning, is like, I love that angle, not just of supporting small businesses, but again, like it's a win-win all the way around, right?
Yeah,
like
definitely.
If you can lift up a local business, give a customer more convenience, and the only reason the big guys aren't doing that is because of the logistical complexity, that seems like a bit of a cop-out, right? And so that's why we're using technology to actually facilitate that, streamline that, make it possible, make it opened up so that everybody's happy in the equation, right? So I appreciate you calling that out. Yeah, it's definitely something.
I think it's a big win, and
totally.
I see you guys. I don't know if it's in the roadmap. I hope it is, replacing them in the carrier partnerships and stuff like that. I could totally see that happening.
One day, yeah. Our partners get bigger and bigger. We actually just announced today a huge partnership launch with Bark Technologies. So they make a very cool kids phone and smartwatch with all these parental controls. So that's a massive partnership for us. It's going to mean thousands and thousands of repairs that we are going to be able to direct to our local businesses and our local repair network. So we're really excited for that, and more programs like that and big announcements to come over the next few weeks probably as well, and throughout the rest of this year, just continually being able to pump that business into the local repair ecosystem.
That's amazing. And to use that as an example of what I mean by thank you, I've had conversations with people like Paul Walker. I'm not sure if you know, from Samsung. He was the big time at Samsung for a while, and he told me essentially he was surprised when he learned about our repair shop and what we were repairing. And I was like, Paul, this is what we fix. Like, you don't see that in your service networks. And he's like, no, we don't see iPads in the, like Apple would say, we don't see iPads. Samsung would say, we don't see these models being serviced.
Wow.
And come to find out, the reason being is a lot of the carriers as well as the OEMs, they have like these in warranty constraints. Like Apple does not fix iPads.
Right.
So therefore there is no data from the You Break iFixes or the bigger franchises giving to Apple that there are iPads being fixed and they can be repaired.
Wow.
When you have an AKKO model, you're essentially creating a future where whatever device you're insuring, will find a way to get repaired, like the
Right.
company Bark you just mentioned.
Right.
Now, when those products break, some local repair shop is now going to feed that into the ecosystem of being serviceable.
Right.
It's better for the world because it's not an e-waste product. You're not just throwing it away and giving them a new one. You're figuring out how to fix it.
Right.
And from ground up, from the insurance provider and the OEM, you're developing and fostering an ecosystem of repair.
Yeah.
Like, that's a really powerful thing that I don't think a lot of people really acknowledge or have really seen yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it'll start to become very apparent as we continue to scale. That's for sure.
And
yeah.
grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you calling it out.
That's awesome, man. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. If there's anything else you want to say or any other partnerships you have.
Yeah, there'll be more to come. I just mentioned Bark. That's a big one. Just posted that up on LinkedIn today. Our team's really excited. They're an awesome, awesome company to work with. So we're excited to be growing with them. And there will be a few more in store coming out over the next few weeks here.
If any repair shops want to learn how to become an AKKO partner and,
Yeah.
and an affiliate, where's a great place that maybe they could go to learn more
Absolutely.
and get connected with your team?
Yeah, absolutely. Go straight to our website. So getakko.com, getakko.com. There's a little tab up in the menu for partners, and you can click there if you're a repair shop to get right in touch with our partner success team that handles our retail and repair network. We have a self-serve, it takes like 5 minutes to set up your account on our portal, and then you can go through a training process so that you're all set up to be able to sell our plans, or also schedule a call to go through our vetting process, which only takes maybe a few days to schedule a call and go through that, get vetted out, and then you're all set and approved to be able to do repairs for our claims as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, and check them out, guys. Like they really do. They really can help out your repair shop a lot, because there's a whole revenue stream we haven't talked about. Of like, we're sitting here talking about only the repairs. Like, oh, there's a kickback essentially for
Absolutely.
helping get signed up with insurance.
Absolutely.
Can you share numbers possibly on what that is for repair shops?
Absolutely. So yeah, we sell a variety of different protection plans through our web-based portal that retail and repair shops can use. We even have some integrations with point-of-sale systems like My Repair app. So shout out to My Repair app. They're here at the show as well. So if you're on My Repair app or a number of other point-of-sales that we're in the process of also integrating with, you can sell our protection plans. They range anywhere as low as $5 per month for like crack screen only coverage, like a little basic plan, up to $11 per month for full damage, theft, and loss coverage. And on all those plans, we pay 2 to 3 times the cost of the plan, the monthly cost, as a spiff. So shops can be making anywhere from $10 all the way up to $100 per plan sale. If you're also selling like some of our higher price plans that are more like home bundles for protecting a whole family's personal devices and cell phones. And then we even layer on additional like bonuses and additional spiffs as part of competitions or kind of like rolling types of contests throughout the year as well. So yeah, you'll see all that information once you have an account on our portal. We also promote that in our Facebook group with all our retail repair shop partners. And then we also have like a email list as well, and a whole team that's dedicated just to supporting retail and repair shop partners for the sales side, as well as support when they need help with handling a claim.
I love the fact that we are able as a repair shop to have a new product that we can sell, right? Like we can sell the customer an unlocked phone. Then we can activate them on Verizon prepaid, a partner of ours. And then when they've gotten the new phone and they've gotten the new phone number, I get to activate them on AKKO and get a kickback for that too.
Yeah.
And when they break it in 2 years, they're coming right back.
Yeah.
So we're able, because of AKKO, to recreate the circular business model that Verizon has of keeping the customer inside your ecosystem.
Totally.
Right? Like, you guys are a valuable partner to us, and we get paid for doing it. It's a pretty awesome deal
Absolutely.
for most repair shops.
Absolutely. That's how we like to think about it. It's a win-win-win all the way around, right? Customer wins, our resellers win. Obviously, we have a portion in there too. So we really just see it as like a no-brainer for any shop to be participating in. And yeah, doors are open and welcome for any shop to sign up and work with us.
Last question for you. I've got to ask.
Yeah.
I sit down with a lot of OEMs. I've been in Cupertino with Apple and in Texas with Samsung, Motorola, Darwin Garcia. He's here. You should definitely talk with him if you haven't met Darwin. I'll try to introduce you guys. But a lot of the OEM talks that I've had, it's always, well, we're afraid of working with independents because like the numbers aren't there, and it just kind of feels like a headache, and it's kind of frustrating. They're used to talking with like one franchise that's got 700 stores or whatever. You're an interesting use case or of an example, because you came into like arguably like one of the toughest industries.
Yeah.
Made a name for yourself and your company, all through small partnerships with like independent chains. Like that's not an easy task. And so my question is, what do you say to people that say it can't work? How come AKKO made it work? And how could other people lead by example from you guys?
Great question. Great question. I definitely want to give a shout out to the Repairs First Association because they were a big part of that partnership early on, already building out a community of shops that cared about quality, that wanted to be, leveling up their business, commitments to, OEM quality parts and, doing the repairs the right way. None of that kind of scammy business like you were talking about. So I think a big part of it is having like a system in place. You can't just open the floodgates and let anybody go ahead and sign up, which is why we do really value the vetting and the authorization process we put people through. But again, a lot of it is just tackling difficult problems by putting in the effort, thinking through it, and then leveraging technology. And so I think for us, especially being a technology company first and foremost, it was really about that. How can we solve this problem with technology? And so that's how we built the back-end infrastructure of our platform. We built the web-based portal that all these shops can sign up through. We built the training processes, like fully hosted within our own little in-house built LMS system with, video walkthroughs and quizzes. And so all of that stuff strung together really gives you that complete solution. And it gives you the insight and the analytics to detect and notice when there's something that might look off, or when you do need to reach out to a shop to be able to support them or assist them. So I think it's really just a matter of putting in the work and the effort. And, to us, we believe in the long-term value of
How
that.
many employees do you guys have?
Today, we're a team of about 50.
And 2022 approximately, because I know like a lot of the training stuff kind of came out about then. How many employees were you guys at that point?
At that point, we were probably about half the size.
Like 25?
Yeah.
I'm saying that to say like that's a very small team
Yeah.
to be able to build what you guys built.
Yeah.
And so these companies that are $1 trillion, not saying any names, you guys gotta get your shit together.
For real. For real.
Like, if AKKO can do it, another A company can do it.
Totally agree. And sometimes it takes, frankly, as you probably know, like legislation to make that happen too, right?
Yeah,
You've got the whole right to repair movement. And I think as that continues to gain steam and traction, and as repairing and servicing our technology becomes more and more critical because of how technology reliant everyone is, I think that'll get a lot more notice. You drew that parallel to like the auto industry, for example, right? I think we'll start seeing that in the not too distant future, especially as technology does get more advanced, more expensive, and more integrated into our daily lives. So we're happy to be positioned kind of where we are in that sort of trend continuing. And I hope even in the future that we're collaborating with some of those big guys to unlock local repair for them potentially.
Absolutely. It's interesting. I wonder if you think about how devices getting more expensive will affect AKKO signups, because what we see with the tariffs, analysts say anywhere from 20 to 40% price increases across the board. As of right now, if there's nothing that changes for Apple and Samsung products, that would mean the iPhone 17 would be about $1,000.
Yeah.
Personally, I would assume that would mean more customers are looking for insurance products like AKKO to insure a device that's no longer a throwaway device. Like you might throw away that old flip phone. You shouldn't, but you probably did. Versus you're not going to throw away that $1,000 iPhone 17. Yeah. Is that kind of in agreement with what you think?
Yeah, I think there's like a couple factors there, even before outside things like tariffs and all of that. Like all the data shows people are holding onto their devices longer, right? There's been a little bit of a plateau in terms of the new feature additions and development from some of the major OEMs, and the residual values are higher, right? I'm still rocking my iPhone 15 Pro. It's almost 2 years old now, and I didn't see a reason to upgrade last December, as well as many other people who didn't. And so yeah, people are going to want to care about protecting and ensuring the things that they have, realizing that they're not as disposable and that they're not going to just get a new one every single year like maybe people were doing many years ago. But also, to your point, anytime something's more expensive, I think, inherently you're going to see more people that want to insure that, specific item or asset, because it is a bigger hit to their wallet when something goes wrong with it. So we'll see how things develop.
And also like the authentication aspect. We have a ton of customers, believe it or not, that like Hyundai, they manufacture a lot of the Sonatas, the small sedans in my hometown. And we have a lot of customers that work there that use the Hyundai authentication app. Well, that creates a token specific to the device.
Oh, interesting.
And so like to work, even to like clock in and do some of those particular things, you need that authentication app.
Right.
And if you don't have it on your device and you need to transfer it over, it's not you just download. It's like you got to wait for IT to approve it, and there's this whole process. And so you extrapolate that out to other applications in people's lives. Suddenly, like getting a new phone doesn't sound as cool as it used to be. Switching over all your apps and everything. We see it every day. We have customers that are just like, I got my iPhone 12 and I don't need a 16. Like, what's better? I'm just a mom and I just take average photos and like, I don't,
Right.
I'm not here to play the latest Fortnite game on my phone. Like,
right. You don't need all the computing power.
Right.
No, you're totally right. And it's actually interesting. I was just hearing from another repair shop owner here at the show. They were talking about a Uber Eats driver, or Uber driver that came into their store panicking because they were literally in the middle of a delivery and they had dropped their phone and the screen cracked and they couldn't click the button to like complete things. And they're like, I might get kicked off this platform. Like, this is my livelihood and I can't complete this. I'm gonna get a bad review. So to your point with like workers as well,
that's the gig economy in every other sector. It's not just Uber.
True, very phone reliant.
Walmart delivery and
totally.
DoorDash and everything.
Yeah. So whether it's like your access token because you're working at an enterprise or you're a gig driver, that's exactly why starting a couple of years ago, we really started expanding into that B2B space and working with SMBs, but also larger enterprises to ensure their fleets of devices, because being able to service those quick and limit the downtime is just becoming more and more and more critical today.
Couldn't agree more. Well, I hope you enjoyed this as much as I did.
I absolutely did. Yeah,
I was
great
excited to do this all day. So
yeah,
I really appreciate you coming on, and I hope you guys listening can go check out AKKO and can get started with them and partner with them. If you're a repair shop, it just makes sense.
Absolutely, it really
totally
does. Yeah, and we're here for repair shops, and hope to continue having it be that way as we continue to scale. So we rely on all of you as our partners to work with us and be that extension of our great experience. We hope to return that favor to you over time, giving you more business as we continue to grow.
Awesome. It was a pleasure, friend.
Absolutely.
Thanks for coming on. Seriously.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.